RTÉ Soccer Women's World Cup podcast, sponsored by Cadbury. For grassroots to national level, a supporter and a half of women's football in Ireland.
Turn the world round, shut the show down. I've been spinning, couldn't slow down. On the road now.
All right, welcome along to the RTÉ Soccer Women's World Cup podcast. Raf Diallo here as Ireland bid farewell to their adventure in Australia with a 0-0 draw against Nigeria in Brisbane. So that's Ireland's first point and first clean sheet at a major tournament, and the girls in green sign off and prepare for the journey home. And Anthony Pyne from RTÉ Sport Online will be making that journey home very soon as well. But Anthony, before that anyway, you were at the draw against Nigeria just a few hours ago. So first off, I suppose your impressions of the game and I suppose what you took away from it in terms of tactics and setup changes.
My impression of the game was very similar to the other two games in that Ireland were good in the first half with a defined shape. That she tweaked her midfield. She had Lily Agg sitting with Rusha Littlejohn in a sort of box midfield, allowing O'Sullivan and Sinead Farrelly to get a little higher up the pitch. So it was a sort of a box of those four players. Which worked well. I thought freed O'Sullivan and Farrelly. Katie McCabe got more advanced up on the left side. Nigeria's sort of attacking quartet of Oshuala, Kanu, Ajibade and Tony Pyne, who was really good. They had flashes, they had little moments, but generally Ireland did a good job of cutting off the supply to those four players. I mean, they become like an attacking four when they are on the attack and going forward. But although there was a couple of moments in the first half, generally Ireland did quite a good job of locking that down. Had a couple of good moments. Katie McCabe had their best chance of the game early on where she drilled it wide. And in the second half, it kind of sagged. The shape kind of sagged a little bit. They dropped a little deeper and they just created very, very little in that second half. But they got out with a point. Their first point at a major tournament. It's another little landmark for them. I think they were all very keen not to get bet again, just for the fans. And again, there was fantastic support there. I mean, of the whatever the official attendance was, it was 24,884. Vast majority of that crowd was supporting Ireland. And they had a little moment with the fans at the end. Courtney Brosnan named player of the match after that unbelievable save to deny Kanu, which was, that in itself was kind of, along with Katie McCabe's goal against Canada, I think that will be the moment of Ireland's World Cup. It was an outstanding save, and she's had a good tournament with Courtney Brosnan. So that was nice for her, and they all got huddled around her and they enjoyed that moment. But as we're going to get to it's events off the field,
the press
on the touchline that have overshadowed this game, and indeed in some ways the whole tournament, because we just persistently been talking about Vera Pauw's future, and it's all coming to a head now because things will be decided in the next few days. And look, as I said, as we're going to chat about now, I'm sure there was a moment with Katie McCabe that perhaps was telling, and we'll see how much comes out in the wash. But we now have a situation where our manager's contract is basically up. We don't know if she's getting a fresh one. She's claimed she doesn't know what's happened. She's reiterated her desire to stay on, but we await further clarity from the FAI. But before there's a homecoming, they start to fly home tomorrow, and then there's a homecoming plan for them on O'Connell Street in Dublin on Thursday. So
yeah, it's all happening very quickly. Yeah, let's listen to Captain Katie McCabe first, and then Vera Pauw then afterwards was speaking to Tony O'Donoghue exclusively in the mix zone, and then we'll talk about the press conference which you were at and where there was more about what you discussed on the touchline there. It was expanded upon by Vera Pauw, but it wasn't expanded upon in this particular clip. So Katie McCabe first, and then manager Vera Pauw.
Katie, I want to say congratulations on the point and the clean sheet, but I also want to ask you, how frustrated were you with the amount of possession and chances that we had?
Yeah, look, we spoke at the start of the game to start with a lot of energy, to be calm and composed and patient in our defensive work. and to have a lot of the possession was really good. It was just about utilising it in the right areas, and we did create some good opportunities. And it was disappointing, obviously we didn't capitalise on it, but yeah, I was really proud of it, and to have Courtney obviously make that world-class save as well at the end to help get us the point was really good.
Great chance for you, very close at the start of the game. I mean, you're probably kicking yourself.
Yeah, I was kicking myself. Yeah, look, the girls built up brilliantly down the right, and for it to fall at the edge of the box, I think I had a bit more time.
I fell to your left as well.
Sliced it wide, yeah, I know. That reminded me, Tony. But no, look, really disappointed, obviously, to not even work the keeper with it. But again, really good in terms of what we were trying to do. We were trying to create, get in the 18-yard box and get shots away. And yeah, I've seen a lot of growth in these last three games through that.
Are we a bit more fluid in our formation now, in our possession? Can we get our creative players higher up the pitch? Yeah,
look, having Denise as well in the pocket, we identified they were kind of spaces and one of the weaknesses of Nigeria. So to have Sinead and Denise work the pockets, I think looked really well, and then to kind of have the fluid between myself, Rusha and Sinead on the left, I felt hurt them at times in the first half, and yeah, I think they shut up shop a little bit in second half, but again that made us a little bit more free for Heather down the right. So yeah, it's a mind game, isn't it? You're trying to figure each other out, but that's what it's like at this level. Everything's constantly changing, and yeah, I'm really proud of how we dealt with it.
How good was Sinead, and how important was it that she finally got 90 minutes?
Yeah, of course, Sinead's a fantastic footballer. She's very intelligent and she's very elegant on the ball. And having, I think, Rusha underneath that to support it and spray the balls left and right really works well for us. Like I said, for us to interchange the way we were doing in the first half makes it difficult for opposition. So yeah, no, I'm delighted for Sinead getting the 90. And it's something for all of us to build off. Finally,
Katie, because of the age profile of the squad in particular, do you expect many changes between now and the Nations League and the European Championships?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Of course, we never want to lose anybody, but I'm sure obviously people will be having time to switch off after this tournament. It's been a long few weeks, of course, but I guess tonight we'll enjoy our first ever point at a major tournament, and yeah, just enjoy it with the team, because like I said, it's been a crazy few weeks, so enjoyable as well, and I'm dead proud of the girls to get our first point on the board.
Vera, when you reflect on tonight's game, first of all, how proud are you of your team and their performance?
Yeah, it's amazing. If you see how Nigeria has played against Australia couldn't handle them, and our game plan worked so well that Nigeria didn't know what to do, and I think that every single player of that squad deserve all the compliments, because it was not easy, but it was so disciplined, and because of the discipline we could get to the goal of the opponent. Yeah, and we had, I think, at least 3 very, very good chances. If you score one, you win that goal. That is football. If you don't score, then you draw. But they could have. I think they had 2 good and a fantastic save of Courtney, of course.
Unbelievable.
But we can be so proud. Ireland stepping into this tournament for the first time, playing already 2 incredible games against Australia and Canada. We lose with a soft penalty kick, but it was a penalty kick, but it was very unfortunate, and with an own goal. So yeah, we can only be so proud, and those players have grown so much. I was just saying in the corridor, if we would start now with the World Cup, I am absolutely sure we would go through, but you need these kind of games to get to a different level. Those players came in as good players, talented players. They go out of this tournament after only 3 games, just different players at a higher level, at the international world top level, and they will feel that in contracts, in opportunities, and the next generation can step in.
Do you feel that if you had allowed the team to play a bit more, I know you felt that against better sides we had to be compact, we had to be tight, but when you change the formation a bit tonight, there seemed to create more opportunities.
Yes, but that has everything to do with Nigeria. If you compare Nigeria and Australia, the reason why Australia had so much problem with Nigeria was that they left them the spaces to run into, and especially in midfield. But where they left the spaces, that was where Sinead and Denise played. That is what we have now exploited, and we did that so well because both of them played fantastically.
When you look at the huddle afterwards and the way the players embraced you and the spirit that seemed to be there in that huddle, did it concern you then that the players didn't appear to be backing you earlier in the week when they were asked about your future?
Well, they were actually very upset. Megan Connolly was upset by the way it was interpreted. And I said, don't worry, I know how you think about me, because I know how they think about me. So, it is also if a player thinks, yeah, what am I going to say? There's no clarity. Do I now need to say something? Because they don't know what the FAI will know and want. They are players. So they have the next game in September. It's unfair to put that on their plate, I think.
Do you feel that some of the other issues around the squad, including some issues concerning you about those allegations from America, had a negative impact?
Definitely. And I'm so proud of myself, of my professional experience and knowledge, that I could put it aside, and that despite that, I've brought this team to the highest performance ever.
And do you feel that the players do support you and want you to continue as the manager?
I did not feel any different, but that is something that comes after. I think if you see the project that we had over 4 years, together with my staff, together with everybody around, with the people of the FAI, it's incredible what we've done, and we are far ahead of schedule. If you would have said 4 years ago that we would be here now, and with this play, everybody would say you're crazy. But we believed it, and we outbelieved.
Do you think and do you wish to be involved with this group of players going forward into the next European Championship campaign?
Yeah, what I said is that I was clear. I've been clear from the start. So it's up to others now.
There no doubt will be a review, there always is, after tournaments, into how Ireland prepared, how Ireland performed at the tournament. Would you like to contribute to that review?
I think it's my task to review that. We've had an incredible preparation program. The FAI has done everything they could to give us the facilities and the opportunities to play. The program that we've set from a high level to a level where you could grow in a higher level and then the highest level, that brought us into a shape that we could play until the last minute and push until the last minute. With the training program that we could perform at UCD especially. So the players are super fit. They are frustrated because they feel they had even more in their legs. And who would have thought that at the end of the game they feel I could do more because they're not exhausted. So the program completely worked, and I'm very grateful for everybody who contributed to that.
There were almost 25,000 people here, most of them probably Irish or of Irish heritage. And for them singing your name at the end, how did that make you feel?
That makes me feel so proud, and it makes me feel warm because, it's not been easy. And the fact that the crowd is backing me up like that makes me emotional.
Thank you, Vera.
Thank you.
So that is Republic of Ireland manager Vera Pauw, and before that, captain Katie McCabe. Now, we'll touch on the different points that they raised in both of their interviews with Tony there, but the press conference, there was more about a particular flashpoint during the game, 70th minute or so, where Katie McCabe, and I think you referenced it earlier, Anthony, where she turned around to the bench and specifically to Vera Pauw and was looking for what it apparently was fresh legs and freshen up the side on her side of the pitch. Now, there seems to be a little bit of this was addressed in the press conference. Then you might just maybe piece it together for us what Vera Pauw said, and I suppose the point that she said Katie McCabe made to her.
Well, I mean, it had been noted and picked up on in the press box that Katie McCabe had urged Vera Pauw to bring on fresh legs at a point in the second half. I believe she was sort of referring to her side of the pitch. She wanted a change in the middle of the park. Vera Pauw's first change didn't come until the 84th minute. She brought on Marissa Shiva and Abby Larkin, were her two changes for Lily Agg and Heather Payne, and then Diane Caldwell came on and it's deep into injury time. And so when it was brought up in the post-match press conference, I mean, I actually just quote Vera Pauw just to get it just verbatim, just for clarity. She said, if Katie McCabe wants to change, it doesn't mean she's not the coach. Everybody was doing well, so I said, what do you want, Katie? Taking the best player off? No, a player is allowed to be emotional, is allowed to say that it's fine, but during the game, I step back and analyze and make changes that are necessary. Now, that was tweeted out by a couple of journalists. Gavin Cumsky from the Irish Times tweeted out an excerpt of the press conference. So it was in the public domain very quickly. And soon after that, Katie McCabe tweeted an emoji with a zip, as in like the mouth being zipped.
Yeah,
that emoji.
it usually means silence. Anyway, yeah.
Yes, or I shouldn't speak, or okay. So let's we're in this is the world we're in now, where we have to decipher these things. But I think we can say that relationship is quite strained, and probably has been for a while. I mean, even go back to June before Ireland played France in a friendly. Katie McCabe said herself, I think that the word she used was clashed. She said, myself, Vera, clashed at times over the last few years. But we want what's best for Ireland, and that was the response to a question, a pretty direct question. Would you like Vera to stay on as manager? She didn't definitively say yes. Instead, she said, well, look, we clash at times, but ultimately, we want the best for the team, and it's not my decision. And this is probably the most public it is the most public show of any tension that is there. There clearly is some sort of issue there between the two of them. I think we can say that safely enough at this stage. Look, I mean, as a manager, I guess Vera Pauw is correct. I mean, she is there to make these decisions. It's on her. She has to make the calls. That's what she's paid for. Now, as soon as you get any player on the team trying to dictate how the team should play or what changes are being made, if you relent to that, you're done. Like, your authority is completely gone. But it's not nice for us to be chatting about things like this at the end of a first World Cup. It's not how everybody wanted it to go. We all hoped Ireland got out of the group. We all hoped they'd have a big famous win that we could really get on board with, and to further elevate the growth of the women's game, which is down to the achievements of this team in this country. What they've done is fantastic under Vera Pauw. And nothing can change that. They broke new ground. They made the first major tournament. The journey has been fantastic. I think they've done okay over here, I have to say. I mean, they've got a point out with 3 very tough games. It was always a big ask, but they certainly weren't ever a disgrace. They never looked out with their depth. They just ultimately didn't quite have enough in the top third, and that's look, you can say, is that down to the setup and the approach? It is a defensive style, yes, but that's the style that's taken us this far. That's not a new thing. That's how she's played really since she took over Ireland. That's how she's set up, generally speaking, particularly against the stronger teams. And ultimately, Ireland just didn't quite have enough. But it wasn't down to any lack of effort or anything like that. The players, certainly, if there is friction behind the scenes, it's evident in how they're playing. I will say that, today, this thing with Katie McCabe and the back and forth on the sideline, that's really the first sort of public showing of any tension that there may be. Generally, they've gone on the pitch and they've given a good lash. They just didn't quite have enough. Really, I think they only had one shot. I'm not exactly sure what the stats are in terms of shots on targets, but not many. 1 goal in 3 games. And you'd have to say, in those 270 minutes of football, they didn't look hugely threatening for very large periods of any of those games. They had their moments, including tonight, but generally speaking, offensively, that was the issue. But sorry to go off on a bit of a tangent on that, but yeah, look, this is.
But I mean, even coming back to it, sorry, Anthony, Vera Pauw, from what she said in the press conference, it seemed she doesn't mind a player like Katie McCabe actually making the request. It's more just that she was quite clear about that. I suppose the difference being that it's the tweet or the X or whatever they're supposed to be called now. Afterwards with the emoji, I think it's sort of like the more telling sign than anything else.
Well, that is a good point, Raf, because what happened that further opens the can of worms. That invites speculation. Public speculation to to tweet something like that on Twitter. That's what that does, and it's how do you? It's also, you know, for Vera Pauw, how does she respond to something like that? It was I'm not really sure what that achieves, you know. But look, again, and it's always dangerous to assume anything around situations like this, but you do feel that we're coming towards the end of something here. You know, it would be quite a surprise if Vera Pauw was to actually, you know, the next announcement would be that she has signed a new deal. I think at this stage, the feeling is that she won't be signing a new deal, or she won't be offered a new deal, I should say, because she's, as I said, she has consistently said that she wants to stay. She doesn't want to go anywhere. But you know, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's you know, it's not a great way to end the journey. You know, the two of them were at a fan park on Sunday together, with many Irish fans who turned out to the fan zone park here in Brisbane. It's funny, you know, like I bet if a public poll on among the fans of would they like Vera Pauw to stay, I think that the majority would like her to stay. Because there's you know, the general perception is that she's done a good job here. But if you've got severe breakdowns with relationships with key players in that dressing room, it's very difficult for a manager to come through that. You know, it really is. And so I suspect that we could be coming towards the end of the Vera Pauw reign.
Yeah, one other thing I suppose before we talk about sort of what the future looks like with or without Vera Pauw, and at this stage, as you said, we won't know that. The other thing was sort of like the use of substitutions, which was kind of interesting between the three games. And as you said, in this game, 3 subs were made, 2 of them in the 84th minute, Marissa Shiva, Abby Larkin, and then Diane Caldwell gets to make her World Cup cameo, but it's very, very late in the game. And it was just a point Dan McDonnell from the Irish Independent made on Twitter, I suppose, right towards the end of the game, that Pauw definitely following the trap in Euro 2012 mantra here. Squad members who haven't got a minute in a dead rubber left in no doubt over where they stand. It's part of the mentality that makes her successful, but also suggests she's not playing the long game here. So really sentiment, and again, I suppose it's professional football. Sentiment isn't a huge part of the way Pauw manages, or actually in the way many managers manage.
No, I mean, look, she did have an opportunity though to get play like there's only 3 outfield players who didn't get on. Kira Grant, Claire O'Riordan,
yeah,
and Chloe Mustaki. They're the only 3. Now we were talking about, this is the sharp end of, this is elite football, you know, so it's fair enough that she's doing everything to get a result. And Ireland always, they put an awful lot of weight on tonight, because for themselves, for the fans, you know, the chance to get a first point on the board at a major tournament, and for the integrity of the competition. You know, Canada and Australia would have been keeping a very close eye on this game tonight. It had ramifications for the group, obviously. Like, they would have been hoping that Ireland could do them a favour, particularly Canada. As it turned out, Australia won that game very comfortably, and like, I guess you could say, well, you know, maybe she should have. You don't get many opportunities in top level football to be sentimental or to do things like that. But tonight was probably an opportunity for her to do that. But I wouldn't get too hung up on that. You know, look, she's set her stall. She is a manager who really, you know, the Trapattoni comparison is quite. I think that's fair enough, because, you know, she does have favourites. And managers who are quite structured and rigid in their approach, they tend to be like that, because they like players who will do exactly what they want them to do. An example is Marissa Shiva. Like, she loves Marissa Shiva. Ever since she came into the team in February, she's got an awful lot of game time. And, you know, hasn't exactly shot the lights out, but she clearly does. I think she likes the fact that she probably just does exactly what she's been asked to do. So, yeah, look, disappointing for us. At this point, for say like someone like Kira Grant, who realistically, you know, for any of those players, you don't know when you're going to get back to a World Cup. But she's a little bit older, and you know, of course, you go all that way. Everybody wants to get in the pitch, but as I said, it's the sharp end of the game, and you know, Vera Pauw is hard nosed enough to stand by those decisions. I think really, like, of all the things that's going to be leveled at her, or has been leveled at her, and the scrutiny is going to be on player relationships, and has she actually got the support of her players. this one will probably be kind of lost among the discourse in terms of who she used and who she didn't. I think she's always been quite conservative with her substitutes, so there's no great surprise, like whether you agree with it or you don't. None of us really expected her to completely rip up the plan tonight. The team was more or less. Lily Agg maybe was the slight surprise, and the fact that Heather Payne was fit. But that tweak to the midfield where she allowed O'Sullivan and Sinead Ferry to go a little bit further with the pitch, that's about as radical as it gets with Vera Pauw. That is just the type of manager she is.
Yeah, and the next fixture for Ireland, of course, it's a fairly momentous one. That's the Aviva Stadium, 23rd September in the Nations League. And, it shows just how quick football moves. I mean, we're coming into the start of August now, and that's 6-7 weeks on. And of course, there has to be a decision made on who the manager is going to be. But also, this could be the end of a cycle for a certain crop. A lot of the squad are sort of on the older side. This might be a time where some of them might make decisions about what they're going to do next in terms of whether they remain internationals or not. And there's youngsters coming through, the likes of Abby Larkin have had cameos in the tournament. So, what does the picture look like in terms of the optimism, in terms of building on this then, from your point of view, when you factor in what players are coming through, what players are sort of on the fringes who didn't make it into the tournament, and those who may step away?
Yeah, I mean, look, there is a few where you think, are they going to step away now? If you look at the age, and there is a lot of experience within the squad and players who've been around a long, long time. I mean, to be fair, what I would say is that they have so much, those players, if you look at, say, particularly our back line, like Louise Quinn, Niamh Fatty, Diane Caldwell, they've been around for so long and really had to fight and scrap to get to this point. And now it's like, all this good stuff is happening. It's very difficult to walk away. Like you've got the first game at the Aviva Stadium in September against Northern Ireland, which is kicks off the Nations League campaign. That's the first time, the inaugural Women's Nations League campaign. The Euros qualifiers begin, I think, next February 2024. Ireland will absolutely have a chance of making it to that tournament, no doubt about it. So you could be looking at going, well, that's only 2 years away. Can I keep going for another 2 years? I think a lot of them would say, yeah, well, I'll give it a go. Now we may get one or two that call it a day. With that may happen. But I think, as I said, like I wouldn't expect, say, certainly Louise Quinn, Fatty, like I think they'll be certainly looking to stick around. In terms of the next generation, I mean, we got, Abby Larkin, who did really well against Australia and came on a halftime against Canada. She's 18 years of age. She will be in England, I would say, in about 6 months' time. And she is a great talent. She's a really exciting talent. And that would be one to keep an eye on, how she develops over the next few years. Jessie Stapleton has just signed for West Ham. Didn't make the squad, but a very good player. And you'd hope that, that move to England might further accelerate her progress and her growth. Aoife Mannion was very unfortunate to out in this tournament. I think she's 27, 28. So hopefully if she just gets a proper run of club football and avoids injury, she's an excellent player. Leanne Kiernan, you could say, was unlucky to miss out. Still plenty of years left in her. Jamie Finn is the same. These are good players, and they'll be knocking on the door, and there is depth being built there, and competition for places. So. On that front, there's plenty to be optimistic about. There's plenty to be optimistic about with that team, no doubt about it. And there's more to come. But it just could be that this particular cycle, Vera Pauw's 4 years, it almost is now, Raf. That could be coming to an end, and it's a shame that if it's to go out on a sour note, that is a pity, but. She will always be the manager who first led Ireland to their maiden major tournament. 4 years I think is quite a long cycle for a manager like that, in terms of how intense she is and the disciplines. And I keep using the word structured, but I just think it's the best way to describe Ireland. Like, it is structured, it is quite defensive, and maybe everybody, the FA will sit down and think, right, it's time now, maybe we try something new. Given that this team although there are some older players, there's still a lot of, like, Denise O'Sullivan's in her prime, Katie McCabe is in her prime. You're probably only gonna get maybe, Sinead Farley is 33, but you're definitely gonna get another good campaign out of her, and she's see the quality that she has. So there's kind of a feeling that, and I think Karen Duggan made this point. This squad has the opportunity to properly fully peak at the Euros, and this tournament will massively stand to them in that regard. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. But certainly, if Vera Pauw was to go, whoever coming in will be coming into a squad in good shape and with the potential to keep this momentum going in the right way.
Yeah, and if you want to watch back the Ireland-Nigeria draw, it is on our highlight show at 8 p.m. on RT2 and the RTÉ Player. Also, you can watch the highlights clip and of every match as well on our YouTube channel and also on RTÉ.ie, and some of those other results, as you mentioned. Australia beating Canada 4-0 to qualify out of the group, along with Nigeria, and then Japan in Group C. Now that's 3 wins from 3, very impressive. Trash Spain 4-0, both teams going through, and then Zambia signing off with a win after difficult first 2 games, beating Costa Rica 3-1. And then tomorrow, Portugal against the USA and Vietnam against Netherlands, both at 8 a.m. And you can watch every match live on RTÉ television and also the RTÉ Player. And then at midday, the Group D teams finish off that group with England against China and Haiti against Denmark. And that is pretty much it for today's RTÉ Women's World Cup podcast. The regular RTÉ Soccer podcast is back tomorrow, and where I'll be talking to Conan Byrne and Keith Tracy about the World Cup, also the League of Ireland, and much, much more. And as I said, every match from this tournament is live on RTÉ television and the RTÉ Player all the way to the final. Anthony, you though are heading home very soon, so I better let you go, and we'll see. I'll see you in person anyway, pretty soon anyway.
Thank you, Raf. Thanks a million. And I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Turn the world round, shut the show down. I've been spinning, couldn't slow down. On the roll now.
A supporter and a half likes, shares, comments, and tweets. Cadbury sponsors RTÉ Soccer Women's World Cup podcast.